who will be responsible for decommissioning, waste, and recycling for wind and solar? With us today is a very famous guy from California, Mr. Ronald Stein. Ronald Stein is author of several books and articles. He's a columnist, engineer, and energy policy advisor. Good morning, Ronald.
Armando, glad to be aboard.
Thank you so much for coming and having you here. Ronald, let me show something that you mentioned before. No, sorry. No, it's not showing. Okay, no problem. In your recent article, you bring a view of a complete end-to-end process, cycle of renewable energies, especially for solar and wind. Is there a problem at the end of the process with the destination of used materials?
Yes, because wind turbines, solar panels go through a lot of design, procurement, construction, and then they go into operation. But no one's thinking about what happens when they reach the end of their life. And shockingly, the recycling of worn out turbine blades, worn out solar panels, EV batteries, in the wealthy countries, the less populated, they're subsidizing this. And it's not in the cards. No one's thinking about recycling because, we're going to talk about wind turbines today, but same thing with solar panels and EV cars. When those people that have an EV sell them, there's not much of a resale market. And so what are you going to do with the batteries? And no one's given that a lot of consideration. And right now, there is no economical method for recycling. And so they're going to be just abandoned in place. And I know in Australia, they've got piles and piles of toxic waste dumps of turbine blades.
It's not similar to oil and gas and coal at the end of the processes?
Well, it's interesting because for oil projects, gas projects, nuclear projects, any environmental type, project, there is details down to the last dandelion of how they're going to restore the land back to the pristine condition. But that's not on the cards for the renewable side of the lecture. So, I see pictures of all these wind turbines offshore. It reminds me of watching the space shuttle launch. When you watch the space shuttle launch, from a distance, you're like 5 miles away where the cameras are. The space shuttle is only 12 inches high. But when you get up close to it, it's longer than a football field, the whole assembly there. And these wind turbines, like I say, they look not too intimidating from a distance. But when you get up close, gee, some of the blades, the new technology, some of the blades themselves are almost a football field long. And when you get up close, that is a lot of mechanical equipment, gears, and like you say, when it requires maintenance, and if it's abandoned in place, who's going to go out and replace it? I mean, I see these pictures of all these wind turbines, in the ocean, and I'm thinking, well, in 20 years, none are going to be moving, and no one's going to be demoing them and decommissioning them and recycling them. They're just going to be like a ship stuck in the water,
Why is it so difficult for blades, batteries, and wind parts? Because there's special materials and because in the oil and gas, we have decommissioning from old platforms.
Well, with the blades, they're a plastic and they're a resin, and when they put them together, it's tough to break them down. Like I say, Australia probably has the most wind turbine blades because they got a head start, and no one's found an economical way to recycle them yet. And I think we're subsidizing the design and construction. We should be subsidizing how we're going to recycle them. if they can be recycled. If they can't be recycled, what's the plan? You just want to, you know, like I say, it's going to be devastating to, and I'm surprised the environmentalists don't even speak up about that.
Yeah, that's
The
right.
the environmentalists, they want the, clean electricity, and they envision wind and solar being a source of clean electricity, and but they're silent on
They are
what
not
it's
paying
doing.
attention to this part of the process, the end of the
No,
process.
no,
Why? Is there a reason, specific reason?
um, I, I I think it would embarrass, the environmentalists. It's interesting. Let me change the subject a little bit.
Sure.
We have the same thing with fuels, because China, they're building ships and planes, and they're kind of getting ready to invade Taiwan. Well, they're also building 80 new refineries to provide the fuels for those ships and planes.
Yeah.
And then Biden, on the other hand, is he wants to get rid of fossil fuels. And I'm in shock. All the military generals, their boss is Biden. And none of the generals are asking our president, how are we going to run our military without fuel? I think the same thing is the situation with the wind turbines. They're afraid to ask an embarrassing question because I think they know there's no answer yet. And I think we should have the answer before we build the wind turbines.
Mhm, mhm. Is it true that some companies are leaving, not taking care of these materials at the end of the process, living in the road?
Well, yes. I mean, like I say, when these wind turbines, conk out, they only have a 20-year lifespan. And like I say, they require a lot of maintenance. Like I say, that big of equipment has a lot of maintenance for gears and lubrication, and it, like I say, it's a lot of maintenance goes on, and once they fail, it's a big effort to take them down. It was a big effort to put them up. It's a big effort to take them down, and that's a cost that is not quite in the subsidies they're getting. They're getting subsidies to build it, not to demo it.
Yeah. So it's not part of the total cost of ownership. So they do not consider in the life cycle costs.
Well, they don't own it. The people, building it, they're not owners. The people that own it is the government that subsidize it. It's their wind turbines now.
Oh,
It's kind of like, a builder builds the house and walks away. Well, you've got to maintain the house. It's your house.
so they have subsidies to construct, to implement, but not to make this part of the process, the end of the process. They do not have subsidies.
Correct. The subsidies are to design them and build them. End of subject.
It's not my problem.
That's right. It's not my problem.
Implementation is problem for someone. But who is responsible for that?
Well, whoever owns it. I mean, if Australia's putting them in, or the East Coast is putting in, or UK is putting them in. UK has got a large wind farm going in, and once they hire the contractor to install them, once the contractor's installed them, they're done. They go to the next project. It's just like any contractor.
The buyer, the companies that are, let's say, running these projects, they are responsible for that.
Yes, it's probably a utility type company that's going to be, quote, the owner. Like say, they'll be generating electricity, so it'll be theirs. But it's being subsidized to design it and get all the materials, procure it, construct it. Once it's constructed, it belongs to the electric company,
Let me share. You are talking exactly the process I put in there: design, procurement, construction, operations, maintenance, decommissioning, disposal, recycling, and of course restoration. So they do not take care of the four last processes.
The first three are done by the contractor putting them in. Like I say, you have an engineering firm design it and buy all the materials and then construct it. Mm-hmm. Once it's constructed, they'll basically assist in the startup of the operation. But once it's operating, now it's basically the responsibility of the utility company who may own it and be selling the electricity from it. So from operations and maintenance, that's operation and maintenance is the utility company's responsibility. And then after 20 years, when these things are not working, now you got to be concerned about the decommissioning and the other items after that. And no, it's not in the cards. I've been looking at this and I don't see it. So, like I say, to me, it's irresponsible for governments to subsidize half of it without being concerned about the other half.
Yeah, that's right.
They're so focused on getting electricity from wind and solar that they forget about there's going to be a big mess to clean up.
Yeah. So missing some. This topic needs, let's say, regulation or government rules, clear rules, and there is not enough.
Well, like I say, what they're doing right now with the design and construction, they're just subsidizing that. But the owner is going to have the responsibility for decommissioning when after 20 years. They're the ones that are going to need subsidies. How are you going to decommission it? How are you going to recycle it? Yes, like I say, we've been subsidizing the design and construction. We're going to have to subsidize, the decommissioning and recycling.
For instance, for oil and gas platforms in Brazil is the case. I know that in Norway, very similar. So the company, the owner, is responsible to decommission all the platforms and bring
exactly.
the steel parts, all the parts to shore, to onshore, and to process and to sell and to do everything.
Right. Yeah, they're basically constructing it, operating it, maintaining it, and if that necessary, decommissioning it. But they have the wherewithal to do it. Right now, you don't have the wherewithal of, I'll call wind turbine operators, may not have that big deep pockets to do all that. So that's a subject that's, like I say, it's starting to come to pass because wind and solar have been around for 20 years, and now they're starting to reach the end of the life cycle. And yeah, it's terrible. I mean,
Ronald, there are two let's see, interesting points to be analyzed. So for renewables, for instance, the end of the process, the topic we are talking today, and the beginning of the process. Today I saw a video, very interesting video about the Cobalt challenge from DW documentary, the dark side of the energy transition, and they showed that developing countries are, let's see, having some issues with kind of jobs and environment. So the first world is transferring problems to the third world to require these metals, minerals. Is it clear for you, this vision?
Oh, it's very clear, because if you remember, the last book I wrote was Clean Energy Exploitations, and it was nominated for a Pulitzer Prize because it brings transparency to the fact that all the exotic minerals and metals, like the lithium and the cobalt, and like I say, they're all coming from developing countries. They have no environmental controls, no labor controls, and the environmental degradation is atrocious. And the exploitation of people that have yellow, brown, and black skin is beyond comprehension. I mean, you got kids 6 years old mining for these exotic minerals and metals, but that's okay because it's over there. We don't see it.
It's very fast.
And again, people are concerned about what's in their backyard, but they're not concerned about all the environmental degradation over there. Once they have a lithium mine is dirty. I mean, lithium mine and coal mining is clean compared to lithium. Lithium is strip mining, and coal, you basically go down and you don't see a lot of that. But lithium mining is atrocious to the environment and the landscape. And once they are done with the site, well, they just move to the next site. They don't reclaim it and bring it back to its pristine condition. And they have so much land, it's okay. We'll just go to the next site. But and I mentioned before, I mean, the lithium battery is made up of a lot of those exotic minerals and metals. And after writing the book, I made a personal decision. I will not buy an EV. The reason I won't buy an EV, for ethical reasons, because I know where the lithium and the cobalt are coming from, and I'm not willing to financially support the environmental degradation and humanity atrocities that's going on for that. Now, shockingly, the government is. They'll provide you incentives to buy your EV. Well, I look at it, that's morally and ethically not right, because they're providing financial incentives for these developing countries to continue exploiting their people and destroying the environment. And that, if we come up with a clean way to get lithium, that'd be fantastic. The bad news is it's going to raise the cost of lithium. And we already know the cost of EVs is humongously high now, and it's going to make it unreachable even for the wealthy. And so it's, like I say, you have to look at all sides from the beginning to end. And, these EV batteries, they don't appear by magic. And the wind turbines and solar panels, they don't appear by magic. There's a supply chain. And the supply chain is something that people have blinders on. It's okay if it's over there, as long as it's not my backyard.
And narrow vision, yeah.
Yes.
Tell me, so United States are a huge user of EVs, and the second, I don't know, Germany, or so is the same for the US and Germany, so do not take care of.
It's interesting. When you talk about all the EVs in the entire country of America, 40% of them are in one state, California, where I live.
Really?
So it's interesting. Now you think about it, well, okay, then the other 60% is divided among the other 49 states. Whoa, I mean, it's like 1% per state.
Yeah.
The rest of the country doesn't really care about EVs. They don't have infrastructure for, charging, and, they got, longer distances to ride. And it's, like I say, it's going to be a tough road to hoe. Now, the interesting thing is we have 40% of the EVs in the entire country. We also import the most electricity than any other state. California cannot generate its own electricity. We import like 20 to 30% from adjoining states.
Which states that export to California?
Well, whoever's ever on the grid. It's Arizona, Nevada, Utah,
Arizona,
the adjoining states, they feed the grid, and we basically pull the power. So we can't even charge our own EVs. And then the adjoining states that have, quote, 1% of the EVs, we're asking them to buy EVs and charge it with electricity that California wants.
Yeah.
So,
but do not for this.
Because, with the heat wave going on, the first thing the governor says, hey, folks, don't charge your EV.
That's right. Ronald, it depends on the type of government you have nowadays. I mean, for Democrats or Republicans, is different, the approach?
I think it is. I think the Democrats are probably more pro-green, whereas the Republicans, I think, are kind of like what Sweden recently did. Sweden shocked the world. They says enough of this intermittency from wind and solar. We want reliable, consistent power. We're going nuclear. And ironically, this coming Sunday is the election in Spain for the new government. And I think the government that's favored to win is going to follow Sweden and abandon the green program, because businesses, they need consistent power, continuous, uninterruptible, reliable, affordable. And the great thing that Sweden is doing, they're going nuclear, so they're going to be emission free. And I think we should be subsidizing further development of these SMRs, these small modular reactors, because as an engineer, I think that's fantastic. You can kind of pluck one here and put one there, and service 100,000 people, and we could refine that. Can we subsidize our effort to go to the moon? I think we could subsidize, fine tuning that to be a viable solution. And but that's government's decision, not mine.
Yeah, Ronald, which size is this subsidies for green energy? You know the how much money is this?
Oh, geez, I don't know. I know it's just billions. It's a cash cow, and
it's government money. I mean,
oh, of course, yes, it's government money. Yeah, it's government money, which I'm paying for. But yeah, like you say, it's almost like free money. You want to build a wind turbine, you just apply for your subsidy, and you go through the process. But yeah, there's a lot of money to build them, but no effort to clean it up. I guess that'll be the next government's responsibility. Yeah. Who's ever in power in 20 years, you got to clean it
up. That's right. For going to the conclusion, so how do you see the next steps for this problem, or to not take care of the decommissioning and the other process? What must be done?
Well, I think you got to go full cycle. Just like, we have a double standard, because if it's an oil or nuclear project, when they're finished, they're going to be cleaning that project up, bring the land back to its pristine condition with trees and et cetera. And the big problem with wind turbines, they require a vast amount of acreage. And it's going to take, I think, an effort by government to subsidize how we're going to clean up the mess. It's a full cycle. You just can't build it and walk away, because in 20 years, what do you do? And, the current government is probably not that concerned, because they're not going to be in power in 20 years. So it's not their problem. And so the current problem they have is to get electricity from wind and solar. And so it's basically a full cycle thing. I'm in shock that the environmentalists are not concerned about that. Because that, I guess by what I say, 2050, there's going to be like 43 million tons of waste from blades. I mean, that's the equivalent to 215 locomotives per year of waste. And the environmentalists aren't concerned about it. I would think they would be the ones stepping up, but it's a catch-22. If they basically complain about the waste, that might slow down the installation of the wind turbines, which is contrary to their motivation.
Very interesting.
That's a catch-22. But like I say, and that's the reason I'm in shock. They talk about being environmentalists, but they don't talk about a big problem that, in fact, they are creating.
So they do not consider a big problem?
It's not talked about. If it's hard to get a conversation with them. So, like you say, if you talk about, getting a conversation, then you become a denier, of wind and solar.
Very emotional. It's very emotional issue. This kind of conversation with them. Yeah, very emotional.
Yes. And, the world population, we're currently 8 billion. And by the turn of the century, 2100, which is, 75 years away, we're supposed to be like 11 billion people. And it's going to be a lot of challenges, but everybody's concerned about the environment behind us, but not concerned about the environment going forward. That's a shock. I mean, I'm just amazed that is not front and center, because you're building a toxic waste dump potential, and no one's concerned about it.
And politicians also are not talking about this in the Senate and.
No. The only thing to talk about is build more wind, build more solar, and get rid of oil. But the interesting thing is there's an energy conundrum because everybody wants, build electricity, but ironically, wind and solar only generate electricity. They make nothing for society. All the products in the world are actually made with oil. And so everybody is so focused on getting rid of oil. Armando, think about it. If you get rid of oil, you get rid of wind turbines, you get rid of solar panels, you get rid of EVs, you get rid of Air Force One, the plane, because they're all made, 100% made with oil. And there's no replacement yet to replace those parts.
Yeah, that's right. That's
I
right.
mean, this communication we're having, the iPhones, the iPads, all the electronics.
Everything depends, yeah.
It's all made with oil. It's powered by electricity, but electricity can't make the iPad. It can't make the iPhone. It can't make the defibrillator. It can, electricity can make them run, but yeah, it's a full cycle, and it's just amazing that the public does not look at it. The politicians, I think, are just not cognizant of the fact that the world runs on products, not electricity.
And there is no substitute at this time.
Well, think about it. Everything that needs electricity, 100%, from the beginning light bulb, telephone, is made with oil.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to have the politicians, they want wind turbines because wind turbines can replace oil. Well, identify one part, just one part, of a wind turbine or a solar panel or an EV that was not made with oil.
You mean petrochemical?
Petrochemical, yes. Because oil, as we know, oil is totally useless. I mean, it's basically black goo. But when you can manufacture it through the refineries, and there's a lot of chemistry involved, all these hydrocarbons and H components and oxygen components. They can break it down, they can slice it and dice it, and they come up with all these derivatives that come out of that are the basis of everything in our daily lives.
Everything physical,
right?
Touch. Yeah.
So remember, we had a zero emission society back in the 1800s. There was no oil refineries, there was no coal power plants, natural power plants, nuclear power plants. The Beverly Hillbillies hadn't discovered oil yet. But life was short. People very seldom lived past 40 years of age. And when they were born, they very seldom traveled 100 miles from where they were born. And that's a society without oil.
What do you think that can come in terms of substitution for oil? Of course, next 50 years or 100 years, I don't know. But is there a chance to replace oil?
Well, we've had 200 years to come up with a replacement. Haven't done it yet. What we have done, we've been able to be more efficient and more conservative. I mean, even like the Indy 500 race, just about a month ago, Shell Oil came up with a renewable fuel for the cars. And I know there's additives that are being introduced to society to make the fuels cleaner and less particulate emissions, that type of thing. So we can continue to improve the efficiencies of everything we have. I mean, I take a look at my car today. My car, 40 years ago, you open up the hood, and there was room to put two bodies in there, But I open up the hood of my car today, and I can't even put a sandwich in there. There's all those emission controls and everything. And so, yeah, we can improve efficiencies and conservation because oil is not going to last forever. Nothing lasts forever. But it has given us a fantastic way of living. When you take a look at weather-related deaths, we have a lot of heat going on right now in the world. Basically, all the products have been responsible for eliminating about 98% of all the weather-related deaths. If it's hot, you get in cooler climates, air-conditioned climates. If it's cold, you put on clothing, which is made with, fossil fuels. So yeah, all the weather-related deaths pretty much been eliminated. And yeah, I think with the world populating, from 8 to 11 billion in the next less than
Yeah.
100 years, these people are going to need a lot of food, a lot of medicine. And, right now we got
Much more than today per capita.
oh yeah, because today there's 50,000 merchant ships in the world, 50,000 jets in the world, moving all these products and foods all over the world. And if we're going to need them to keep these, upwards of 11 billion people alive and well. So it's going to be challenging. And, electricity doesn't do anything. Like wind and solar, that's the thing that I'm just amazed at that the politicians don't know. They only generate electricity. They manufacture totally nothing for society. Name one thing that wind turbine makes. Nothing. It just generates electricity.
No chance. Yeah, that's a good point. Ronald Stein, was a great conversation. Again, always is good to talk to you. Thank you
Very
so
good,
much.
Armando. Okay, you have a great day.
You too. Bye bye. Thank
Bye
you.
bye.